Welcome to number one,
Yeah.
the Bengals podcast.
Number
I'm
one
your host, Daddy McDuke.
Bengals podcast for the number one Bengals team.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm joined as always by Dr. Hodgie, the Dr. Kismoji,
Greetings.
and John Luciano Pavarotti Sheeran.
Oh, one of my favorites. Yes.
And we have HR in the room as well. Okay, let us get... I'm sorry. Yet out of respect, because of it is... I think it is Women's National Memorial Month or Women's Awareness Month.
About a week.
And so out of respect, I would introduce HR. And obviously, I have written down the name here of Brenda Jacobson. Okay,
Jenkins.
let us...
Thanks, Hodge.
Right. Let us get right to it.
We'll get there.
Well, look, today we want to talk about some draft stuff and some more non-news, some more nonsense non-news. But first, Briggs.tv. And Courtney, look, I know Courtney is nervous, but I'm going to get it right this time. I've written it down. No, I'm serious. I've written down that the Inside the Shield podcast.
For those who can't see,
Yeah.
Courtney is wincing.
Right. But no, look, Inside the Shield podcast, tell me if I get anything wrong, Courtney, but Inside the Shield with NFL moms, and they had the mother of Kevon Wallace on the show. He's a free safety for the Philadelphia Eagles, and his mom's name is Roseanne Barr.
No.
And
no,
that is, it is kind
That's
of...
impossible. I don't even know who this man is, but that is impossible.
That is
So
not
close. I had my hopes. I actually let my hopes get up. Shame
Right.
on me.
Yeah.
It is, I have it
Fool
written
me
down.
once.
That's what...
Yeah. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice,
Well,
shame on me.
I mean, they had the Roseanne Barr podcast, and now they have her back. And I don't see what's wrong with that. Courtney, am I getting... Hold on. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Roxanne Barnes.
There we go.
I got it now. It's Roxanne Barnes,
we go.
the mother of Kevon.
A name
Wallace.
manipulated by your fascist dreams, as always.
Right. And so she was on the Inside the Shield. And you can go to Brinks.tv and watch us there. And you can, you can kind of decide who you don't want to be on the podcast. I mean, not going to, I'm not going to nudge you in any direction.
What is this, Survivor?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is how it works on the Brinks.tv app. You can go there. Just go to Brinks.tv. Yes. And also, look, go to vino.app/DHSports.
Daddy, I'm
and
afraid
you
that
can
anyone's
get-
going to get voted off the island first. It's going to be you, man.
We will see about that because, as you know, results can be, I don't know what the word is, but they can be
Manipulated, skewed.
Yes. Right. Go to the vino.app/DHSports and get a direct line to me, Hodgie, and John. And we send out texts. We try to send them out at least a couple of times a week, maybe once a week sometimes. But it's only $3, and you can reply, and you can tell us any questions you have, and John will answer those. All right, let us get right to it. So, if you've been following Bengals Twitter, you know that a lot of people have been saying, hey, look at these big contracts. How are the Bengals going to keep this core together? How are they going to give Joe Burrow a new contract? And we know that the Bengals gave Carson Palmer about $100 million, and that was 15 years ago or something.
Burning money.
17 years ago, 18, yeah, exactly. I mean, Carson Palmer. I mean,
Flush it
I don't
down the
care if it was
toilet while you had
1920s. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, I think a lot of our viewers don't know that the second role of this show, besides covering the Bengals, is just hating on Carson Palmer. That we do really for no reason, except that we've always done it. No one really knows why we hate on Carson Palmer.
No, there's a lot of reasons. But they gave Andy Dalton, $96 million. I mean,
Wow.
And
Money
that
down
was
the
what,
crapper.
2014, John? Wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
Why not just pay me to throw the ball?
But no, my point is this. If you pay Andy Dalton $100 million, you pay Carson Palmer $100 million, you're not going to give Joe Burrow $500 million? I mean,
They are definitely.
come on.
I wouldn't be surprised if they gave him $500 billion.
Yeah.
He's worth every
Be a little
penny.
surprised.
I don't know if I would either, John. I mean, if they can.
Dr.
If they
Evil
can.
negotiations.
No, I mean, if you could sign him to a 100-year contract, why wouldn't you, John?
It's a
But
good
look,
starting
hold on.
point for the agent. I don't know if it's going to end there,
Well, John,
If I were his agent, I'd get him the contract.
How many
John.
years for a $500 million contract?
That'd be 10 years. But I mean, by the time Joe Burrow is up, it could be a little bit more than that, the total amount. But John, let's John talk about it, because John was telling us about the signing bonuses. And
I want Joe Burrow on this team when his knees don't work. I want a decrepit Joe Burrow on this team. I want him here when he's 50 years old, still playing starting quarterback. I don't care if we win.
I don't know if he has to be 50
when you were
years old.
saying that, like, he already kind of has decrepit knees now.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I didn't know what you were.
I
going with
take
that.
it. I love it. I'm
Yeah.
a man who I don't marry for life, but I pick QBs for life.
Yep. And I hate QBs.
So we're back with the $500 million range, though.
So John,
Not-
right? So let's talk
Yeah.
about it. So you were explaining to us in our chat. We have a chat. You can't subscribe to that, but if you could, it'd be more than $3.
I
But
thought that was a chart. Okay, go ahead.
no. But John, you were explaining that. Look, a realistic deal. Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league, according to I would say most NFL execs. I don't necessarily agree, but. And his deal was only what, a third guaranteed or something, John? About
Yeah, more or less, I think.
yeah, and the Bengals, like you said, they don't give a lot of guaranteed money out, and I'm getting the idea it's because they don't actually have the cash to do so. But you talk about the signing bonus substituting for the guaranteed money, right?
Well, the signing bonus is the bulk of the guaranteed money for most contracts, but also in the Bengals case, it's the entire portion of the guaranteed money. You have to look at it in terms of like fully guaranteed and practical or effective guarantees. And the Bengals live in the world where they rely on effective guarantees, and you see those in the form of roster bonuses. And roster bonuses get distributed about a couple days after like the new league year begins. So like every free agency, some of their biggest free agent signings of the past, they get paid like a couple million in roster bonuses. Like Trey Hendrickson this year got a $6 million roster bonus that he was 100% going to make, like regardless of what he did. Like he was a phenomenal edge rusher for them last year, but he wasn't going to get cut after he signed a 4-year deal. So he was going to be on the roster for March 21st or whatever the date was, and he was going to get paid that $6 million. None of his base salary or the rest of his contract is guaranteed, but I think he has another roster bonus due next year. So he's going to get that money because this is the Bengals, and they don't typically cut some of their biggest contracts before the very last year, or maybe 2 years before the actual end of the deal. So the Bengals use those roster bonuses in their negotiations to make up for the fact that they don't guarantee base salaries for whatever reason. Honestly, it's not something that I'm acutely aware of, to be honest with you, but I look at the Mahomes contract, and that was like the standard before Deshaun Watson signed his fully guaranteed deal. Mahomes is getting $45 million a year for 10 years, which I think is a good baseline for the Burrow deal. But like you said, only $63 million is fully guaranteed. But every single year, he's getting these massive roster bonuses. His signing bonus is not that big, so against the cap, it doesn't really do much. But every single year that Mahomes is a Kansas City Chief, he's getting a roster bonus in like the $40, $50, $60 million range, and that just has to be paid again on whatever date that is of that year. And the Bengals can do that because they presumably would have $50 million, $60 million in cash on hand every single year to make those payments. It's just a matter of if Burrow wants to take a deal structured like that when there's a new precedent now with Deshaun Watson.
Now, John,
Well, I mean,
John,
here's
important question here. What would you do with $40 million? If I gave you $40 million right now, what you going to do with that money?
I'm keeping like $2 to $3 million for myself because I don't think I need more than that.
Oh, wow.
The rest is going to
our Patreon.
It won't go to Dadio. It'll go a little bit to Bridget, a little bit to Hodgie.
Oh, yeah.
Basically,
Yum,
people who help me, organizations who could do the most good. I don't need more than
What
$2
a
to $3 million.
good soul. Wow.
It's crazy though. Like what are you possibly going to do with more than like a handful of $1 million?
Well, once you buy a $10
John's
million
employee
house,
of the month.
yeah, he is. He's a saint. Once you buy let's say a $20 million house, and I know because I have one. You got the property taxes.
Right.
You got guests coming over once a week. They want the good stuff. You got to break out the good stuff. It adds up. Luxury breeds luxury, John. Now, second question. People keep talking about Deshaun Watson as if he's the reason that all the things are getting blown out of proportion. But from what I remember, it was Dak Prescott, wasn't it, who kind of
No,
changed?
we're talking about the guaranteed money has changed.
Right.
Kirk Cousins got a fully guaranteed $90 million deal or something, right, John? I think it was fully guaranteed. And now Deshaun Watson So Kirk Cousins was a top 10, 15 maybe.
Yeah, but
I wouldn't
Dak was
say
the
top
one who
10.
broke all the records, right? With his salary, he was the
No, that's every year that happens. Anybody who signs a new QB deal is gonna break the overall money record. But what they did with Deshaun Watson, because the Browns were in the bad place, because of the Browns, and because they messed up their relationship with Baker Mayfield, they had to win the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes.
They had to
and
woo him.
so they came in with the final move was, hey, we'll fully guarantee it, and so he agreed. After saying he didn't want to go to the Browns. Wow. So that is the thing: is you have a top tier quarterback getting a long-term deal, fully guaranteed. The closest we had was an average quarterback, getting a shorter deal. But John, so I have a few questions for you. Okay.
Yeah.
It is the thing. The roster bonuses, the signing bonuses, the other teams, they tend to, they always say, hey, this player restructured his deal and now they have, $20 million extra in cap space, right? But they're not losing any money when they restructure those players.
The players
right?
are gaining more money.
They're gaining more money
at that time of the restructure because it's being converted to a signing bonus, and the signing bonus gets prorated throughout the rest of the duration of the deal. But the signing bonus is paid up front, right? So instead of getting paid that in salaries over the next however many years or whatever, you're just getting that money up front. So it's beneficial for the player. It's beneficial for the cap.
Yeah, and so the thing is, will the Bengals be able to do that with their cash restrictions? If they give Burrow a big deal, would they ever be able to be like, hey, we owe Burrow $60 million this year, but let's reduce that cap hit so we can continue building around him?
I
apologize for my glasses, by the way, John. I don't know what's going on with my glasses.
Yeah, I'll answer it. You try to fix them. They don't really restructure really anyways. They have opportunities to do so because they escalate base salaries and they have roster bonuses, and you can convert base and roster bonuses to signing bonuses, but that's typically just not what they do, and that leads to the narrative or the reality that they're quote unquote cash poor or more cash poor than most other teams, or they're not as liquid. I don't necessarily think that's the case. Like, because of revenue sharing, like, no team is necessarily cash poor. They spent a lot of cash every single year, and they're going to spend a lot of cash for Joe Burrow. Don't think for a second that they're not going to get a deal done with Joe Burrow. It may not look like the Deshaun Watson deal, but they're going to sweeten it enough to the point where Burrow's going to get all the money that he deserves.
Yeah. And he deserves a lot, I think. He is to the Bengals what Michael Jordan was to the Bulls. And Michael Jordan, I will remind the viewers, is worth more than $2.6 billion.
Well, Jordan also had like a bunch of endorsements, right? And like Burrow's
That's
not.
true. Football players don't have the same kind of endorsements. That's a good point.
Yeah, I feel like not even Brady ever got to that level. I mean, he's like...
No, he's doing the Hertz rent-a-car. It's kind of sad, really.
Let's go.
He doesn't have the shoes. No one wants to buy Brady shoes. Though what would Brady shoes be? They'd be those white sailor middle-aged guy shoes. You know what I mean? Who wants to buy
He's
that?
got that whole like Lululemon line for dudes, right?
Yeah, and it's rare for a man to be thin enough to pull that off, really, once they pass 30, you know.
I don't even know what happened to this conversation. It started talking about football, and now you are talking about some sort of radical...
The room came to life when we talked about fashion, Dadio, and you have not a whit.
I just
of fashion
retaped my
sense.
glasses. What are you talking about? Look, let us move on. I want to talk about the offseason of the Bengals. John wrote an article talking about how the Bengals, on cincyjungle.com, go check it out. It's free. And he wrote about how the Bengals prevented a lot of injuries last year because they were ahead of the game. They were using advanced analytics to prevent ligament tears.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I wrote down some of the notes that he talked about, and they had, they did like 10,000 Madden simulations, I think, to predict when injuries would happen. And they put very powerful microphones next to the players' knees and elbows to listen to when they were about to crack. No, but really, John, what does that mean? What does it mean to have to be able to predict injuries? I know they're giving them rest, and the Bengals this year they're starting camp later than everybody because we had such a long season. But what did they do last year that you know about to kind of balance out the getting them prepared and also making sure their bodies are not burdened too much?
See, this is an issue I have because you labeled it advanced analytics or arthritics in this case, and it's not really advanced at all. And it kind of creates it's like a gatekeeping type of sense because it's like an intimidation thing where it's really simple. The majority of soft ligament injuries, aka hamstring injuries, they occur during the off season, and then they linger on for the rest of the season, and they pop back up during the season. That's why you have a lot of hamstring injuries occur for wide receivers and cornerbacks and guys who do a lot of sprinting. The Bengals saw this data, and they said, hey, in the offseason, in mini camps, and even the early portions of training camp, we're not going to do a lot of sprinting. We're going to ease these guys up. We're going to give them rest. We're going to give them days off, and we're going to not include that as part of the drills until the closer we get to the actual season, so that they're fresh for when the actual games begin, and they don't end up suffering as many of those injuries in those periods. Obviously, you can't avoid injuries altogether. It's just too physical and violent of a sport to avoid some of those more physical contact injuries. But for some of the injuries, like AJ Green, for example, when he suffered that hamstring injury, I believe it was like 2020 or whatever, and it just kept lingering throughout the season. That's what they wanted to avoid this time, and that's why you saw a lot of their receivers and cornerbacks stay healthy throughout the season, because they did their due diligence of looking at the data, very simple, very readable data for avoiding off-season injuries, and they kind of stuck with that.
Yeah. Well, John, I like that you are anti-analytics finally.
Not even
But
close to what
He's
I
not
said.
anti. He's saying a very simple. He's saying
John
basically
said
that.
trust the science.
Yeah,
That's
he's
what
saying,
I heard John say.
Okay.
Yeah. He's saying
Well-
they basically took care of their own. I mean, they were just careful. They gave them a lot of rest, and you have a real listening problem, Dadio.
Well, okay. Well, let us move on then, because I don't know.
You don't want to listen to me.
Any of that? Yeah, I don't want to listen to you anymore about that. But John, let's talk about the draft. Okay. Now,
Oh, yeah.
the Bengals, they signed that tight end from Atlanta, right? Hayden Hurst, and he's a starter type of guy, right? He can start. He's got athleticism. He's got the catching ability. So, but they're still looking at tight ends, and they have to get the long-term answer. They have to get a guy
They
with
just signed one today, actually.
yeah. They just
Oh, yeah,
signed one. but I
who
mean,
they signed today?
Nick Eubanks. Never heard of him before?
No,
Yeah,
I
I
haven't.
haven't.
Is
From
he-
the
is he any good?
Cowboys.
Is he any good?
He played a grand
Well-
total of 0 snaps last year.
Oh, so he's fresh. They've been
Yeah.
doing their
John, here's the
analytics.
thing. Here's the thing, John.
Positive reframe.
Yeah,
We have.
Yeah,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, John, we have Drew Sample, the blocking tight end. I don't know how much he's actually developed in the NFL as a blocking tight end, but that's what he was drafted to be. And then we have Hayden Hurst, who's the catching tight end, not a great blocker, right? So we can move them in and out. If we're going to draft a tight end, don't you think that, if we're going to use a top, I don't know, one of the first 3 rounds on a tight end this year, don't you think he should be more of a kind of like a home run, kind of like all around, kind of high potential tight end, and not someone who's just kind of good at one or the other?
No.
Why are you
No, I think-
disagreeing, Hodgie?
I think that the Bengals need a really good blocking tight end. And the reason is that we're already so rich on the receiving core. And actually, Jamar Chase can already do what any tight end can do. The man is tough. He breaks tackles. They use him on those short passes. You get your blocking tight end because we need all the protection that we're going to get. My 2 cents.
So you can find blocking tight ends beyond where the Bengals picked Drew Sample. Like, that's not a smart investment at that juncture, if you will. But I kind of agree with what Dadio is saying. When you invest an early pick in the tight end, you're looking for one of the guys that are like the game breakers at the position, the Travis Kelce's, the Rob Gronkowski's, the guys who look like humongous wide receivers but move just like normal wide receivers. And there are a couple in this draft class that they can look at, but that's kind of a missing dimension aspect of their offense. It's like CJ Uzama grew into the very best that he possibly could have been for like a 5th round guy. He was a solid athlete for his size, but they could use more. They could use more speed, explosion for a guy of that build, and to have someone line up attached to the end of the formation and go one-on-one against safeties and linebackers, even slot cornerbacks, like that's a mismatch. And Joe Burrow does a great job of dissecting the middle of the field to have a target of that caliber with that athleticism, that is a dimension that could even open up the offense even more, because you have explosion on the perimeter with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and you have Tyler Boyd on third downs. But having that tight end, it just adds another dynamic weapon to an already pretty dynamic offense.
Yeah, and so that's the thing, John. I'm looking at the guys that the Bengals have worked out or met with. And one of them is Trey McBride, I think. And he's a pretty good pass blocker, but he's not a big play threat. He's not a big vertical threat, not a game breaker like you were talking about.
Where are you reading the scouting reports?
Okay, did I get his wrong?
Are these from the 90s again? You remember when you brought the 90s scouting reports and you thought they were from like last year?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest. I actually watched a little bit of his tape, as you call it, the YouTube highlights.
Well, if it was on tape.
But no, and I actually thought he looked like a pretty good, downfield threat. Yeah, and he's a big guy. He looks pretty big.
He's like 6'4", 250, something like that.
Well,
yeah,
that's big.
And so there's him, and then there's this Grant Calcaterra guy who had a lot of concussions, and he's an average blocker. And when I look at his tape receiving, I don't see an advantage over Hayden Hurst, right? So I don't know. I just want to see what you think of these two prospects. Is it serious? Because the Bengals have met with a lot of players the last couple of years and not drafted them, whereas before the previous 2 years, it used to be a good sign of who they're going to draft. Do you remember, John? It seems like there's been a little bit of a change there. Yeah,
I mean, they worked out Penei Sewell last year, and obviously they didn't take him, but they did work out Trey McBride at his pro day, and he ran like a 4.5, 4.40, something like that, which is really
crazy.
Good for his size.
For a big guy, yeah.
Like, they haven't had a tight end like that since, I mean, I don't even think Tyler Eifert was the athlete that Jermaine Gresham was, but Gresham never developed into what they thought he was going to be. They haven't had like an athletic tight end who was also like a competent and consistent football player, and I think McBride can eventually be that. But it is really hard for rookie tight ends, no matter how talented they are, to be acclimated so quickly in any offense. It usually takes them a couple of years, and then once they're on their second contracts, like that's the prime of their careers. So I think they're in a good spot, though, with having Hurst and Drew Sample be your starting two tight ends for this year, and have a guy like McBride who has the ability to run a full route tree, who's just a solid athlete who can get down the field really quickly, and he had like 90-something catches in as a college tight end, which is insane. Like, he was the focal point of Colorado State's offense, which is very rare for any offense, for like a tight end to have like 38% of your passing yardage. So he is used to being like the number one option in an offense. He won't have to be that in Cincinnati, but again, he won't have to do very much this year anyways. He can take a year to really get his feet under him and then really take off in year two.
The other thing I like about McBride, John, is that he can fill the vacuum of a Uzama, because he's got that kind of energy, that boisterous. He's hilarious. I don't know if you see, like, he has that hillbilly character he played, on Eastbound and Down and Vice Principals. He's a very funny guy too.
No, I think you're mixing him up with somebody.
Is it?
That doesn't sound. Yeah. Hers.
Okay.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like.
Well, we can move on. John, and let us go to along the lines, and let's talk about. Well, first, I know that we're going to talk about Jamari Salyer. But before we do that, John, today there was a lot of rumors about the Bengals, or not rumors, but mock drafts mocking Tyler Linderbaum to the Bengals. And there was a discussion with, I think you were on there with Goodberry and others, and they were like, oh yeah, the Bengals should definitely get him. He's a beast. His tape is incredible. Other people are like, oh, I don't want another Billy Price. His arms are so short. And they're like, oh, Billy Price is not,
I saw a tweet where they had the Tyrannosaurus Rex with really small arms. Right. But Goodberry seems to like him and say that he's quite the athlete. John, what do you think, man?
Look, I know he doesn't pass your arm length threshold.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
It's very important. It's very important, but outliers exist. Nick Mangold, he's an outlier. He was a phenomenal center for many years for the Jets. He had like 31-inch arms. Alex Mack, he's still playing. He was like drafted in 2009, and he has like 31 or 30-inch arms or whatever. Linderbaum, he's in that same type of archetype of build for a center, and it only works when you have the athleticism to get out of your stance, to move laterally, but also to have the strength to hold your own, to displace guys, to move guys, and to hold your ground in pass protection. And I think Linderbaum is in that category of center. Like, arm length only matters when you don't have the athleticism, when you don't have the strength, cough, Billy Price, Russell Bodine, to make it work. And that's why it hasn't worked for Bengals centers in the past who lack that length. Like, they haven't been looking at the right athletes at the position. And Linderbaum, he is a phenomenal athlete. He can run the exact scheme that Frank Pollock wants to run. And I don't think that they're completely interested in getting a rookie center to move Ted Karras to left guard. But if he happens to be there, I think that he would make them change their plans because he's just that good. And I think, I'm not saying that he's going to be the next Mangold or Mack, but I think he's in that caliber of talent as a prospect.
So that would be a first round. We're talking about taking him in the first round.
Yeah. We'll be lucky if he's there. Yeah.
Number 31, is that
31? Yeah. But John, let me ask you something about the arm length, right? Because he's a kind of a slimmer center. He's 290, I think. So, I mean, if he loses, when you lose weight, right, your arms, they come out a little bit more. They protrude, like they're not hidden under the fat as much.
No. They look longer. They don't become longer, Dadio. That's part of the skeleton.
Okay. Well,
I think we need to bring a physician on.
That should be his off-season project.
I remember when they wanted to take Burrow, there were actually people talking about Burrow's hand size and it being suboptimal hand size, and we haven't had any issues with his hands being small.
Actually, it's been an advantage. His hands, he gives people fives when he's going, and he gives kids fives, and people love him because he got the small hands. Yep. John, so look, they worked out Jamari Salyer, and he's a guy from Georgia who we know that is a guard. And here's my thing, John, is would they really draft a guard that early after getting Jackson Carman? And just kind of admitting that they missed on that, because they're not going to have two spots at guard, starting spots, right, anytime soon.
Well, no, if they draft Linderbaum, they're moving Ted Karras to left guard,
right?
And that's a spot taken. So I don't really know where Salyer is going to go. I think playing at Georgia and having that tape under his belt, I think that helps. He's championship pedigree. He's played at 4 of the 5 offensive line positions there. I think he even played a little bit of center when he wasn't starting for them. But I think there's a lot of inconsistencies with his overall game as well. He's just a big dude who's a decent athlete as well. I don't know. I feel like he's got mid-round, maybe he sneaks into the early parts of day 3 written all over him. It's just the versatility and the size and the tape against good competition. I think that's going to help him out, and that's what the Bengals typically value as well. So maybe that's why they wanted to bring him in and evaluate him themselves. But I don't think he's going to cost them anything of a premium pick where it says this guy's going to start day 1.
Okay, well, that's good. Yeah, we do need the depth for sure, yeah. So, okay, Bridget, please.
My turn?
Yes.
All right.
Well, you got to give her a question, right?
Oh, I've got this.
Okay.
So we're going to wrap up, and we're going to do, Hodgie, you actually inspired me. A couple weeks ago, you kind of called on us and you didn't prepare any of us, and it was sort of fun. Yeah. So speaking of Bengals Twitter a little bit ago, yesterday, I think Bengals tweeted asking who should be ruler of the jungle for the 2022 season. So for folks who don't know, ruler of the jungle is a sort of silly thing they do at Paul Brown Stadium.
It's not silly. It's a very serious, but go ahead, please.
Oh, yes. Incredibly serious. Icky Woods with plastic on his, just all serious. So it's this pregame ritual. The ruler of the jungle leads the Houday chant, and there were all kinds of great rulers of the jungle for the inaugural series in 2021. We had Kay Adams, Icky Woods, Bengals Jim, Chad Johnson. There are others. Those were 4 I remembered and wrote down so I wouldn't forget. And so Bengals were asking on Twitter who should be ruler of the jungle for 2022. And I think this means something to the fan base to be able to have a little bit of say in it. The strength of the fan base is quite clear. I don't know if anyone saw the Reds are having Joe Burrow throw out the first pitch on opening day on April 12th. And it's also one of the first opening days where the Reds haven't been able to sell all their tickets. And so pulling a little bit on that Bengals fan base. So I want to ask each of you, who do you think should be ruler of the jungle for one game in 2022? John, we're going to start with you.
Me? Let's bring back Jerry Springer back into town. I don't know when the last time he's been here, but let's get the former mayor on the throne.
I love it. That reminds me, I got to tweet out a picture of me and him at Starbucks from a few years ago. All right, Jerry Springer. We'll tweet that. Hodgie, who do you think?
Well, who else would I pick other than Oprah? I mean, you bring Oprah there, she's going to give more gifts to people. She's the gift that keeps on giving. I'm a personal friend of Oprah's. I could make the call. Oprah.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
You get a Bengal and you get a Bengal.
Exactly.
People would lose their minds.
Yeah, it would be America's team. The Queen City would bring the Queen to the Queen City.
All right, Dadio.
I mean,
here you go.
I know for you, Bridget, it's a joke, this whole affair, but it's actually a very serious thing, as I said. And the answer is obvious. It should be Mike Brown. He should reassert his dominance atop the throne of the Cincinnati Bengals. Look, there's been a lot of challengers to the throne, to the ruler of the jungle, from his retinue. And I'm talking about, it happens all the time. If you look at history in monarchies, that you have sometimes the closest family member, sometimes your daughter, sometimes your son-in-law. They are trying to overtake you, and you don't even realize it until it's too late. And so with this public display of authority,
who
Mike
hurt
Brown,
you when you were a child, Dadio? I want to know what happened in that.
I'm just saying. We need
an authoritarian. His brain is set up
leadership.
in structures of authority. The man is really, really, really messed up.
I don't know, Bridget. I think you got your answer. It is only one true ruler of the jungle.
Oprah.
The rest is just a charade. Yeah.
That is an option and a perspective, Dadio. So thank you.
Thank you
for sharing.
You,
that was a great segment. Thank you.
Are you guys not going to let me share mine?
Oh, what about yours?
Well, we always forget your part of
yes. So I say John Legend. He can be ruler of the jungle. They can run him down. He can sing the national anthem, and then he can do the halftime show. I'm sold on it.
Yeah,
He's a Bengals fan.
I changed my vote. I want John Legend because maybe I could play in his band too. I love it.
There you go. And if
you said John Lennon and just making sure that he's not
Legend.
able to do that.
No.
John Legend. John Lennon, though. I mean,
I'm surprised Hodgie isn't calling for his old friend.
Stuff.
Though I remember when they announced the John Lennon assassination, it was during the Super Bowl, actually.
I'm surprised Hodgie is not calling for his old friend George Clooney to be the ruler of the jungle. That's kind of surprising to me.
Well, he's up there. He's like top 10, but you can't. Wow. No one beats Oprah. I'm gonna have to head off.
Yeah.
Do you want me to do my athletic greens real quick?
No athletic greens. A couple of weeks. So don't buy athletic greens.
Don't buy.
2 weeks.
Get rid of it. Throw out your athletic greens for a couple of weeks.
Buy their competitors too right now.
Yeah. And then buy them after April 14 again. So we show them, who's the ruler of the jungle, as Bridget likes to call it. But okay, look. So we will see Hodgie. We will see you later. Okay, let us just wrap up with the promotion. And look. You can go to the winnow.app or you can go to patreon.com/DHSports. You're thinking, why? Why should I support this show? Well, John, why do you think people should support this show?
Why not? You're supporting me. You're supporting Bridget. You're supporting Hodgie. You're supporting someone I'm forgetting.
Cat.
You're supporting Matilda.
And look at that cat. Look at how well fed that cat is. If we don't continue to get new patrons, that cat is going to, I'm not going to say what it's going to look like. It's going to hurt Bridget's feelings, but it's not going to look as good.
It's going to look like a real Bengal.
And the other thing is, when you give money to us, the amount that goes to John, if any does go to John, you've heard from John's mouth, he gives most of his money away. This man is so generous. So, if you are generous, it is going to a good place, and that is John, potentially, in the future. Okay. I think that's all we have, but we're going to continue to cover the draft in upcoming weeks. We're going to look at some cornerbacks next week, and we will give you full draft coverage. For John, Luciano Pavarotti, and HR, I'm Dadio McDuke. Don't forget to subscribe. Turn on notifications, very important. Turn on notifications, and we will see you next time. So long, sweetie. Bye.